Have you had the dream yet? It's the big day, Halloween. And nothing is done. Nothing's been hung or built outside. The Bluckies aren't corpsed. The candy hasn't been bought. Your costume's not done. You haven't wired up your lights or your sound system. You don't have any fog juice or ice for the chiller, and your big centerpiece monster melt prop is nowhere near dry, and no one's around to help. Then you realize you're dreaming. You still have 2 months to work on your haunt. But when you think about it, that really isn't much time. Especially if you work full-time. And even more so if you have kids on top of that. Remember, a lot of haunters don't count the amount of time left in terms of number of weeks, but number of weekends. At some point, most of us come to the realization that we're not going to be able to finish everything we wanted to do this year. Because of money, or time, or amount of help. Ultimately, budgets always seem to go over, and time always seems to slip away. What the end result will be on the big night is dependent not only on your creativity, but on a combination of luck, planning, and ability to adapt. While some haunters meticulously plan out every scene in the entire layout, many just wing it. They have certain favorite props they want to show, and a few days before Halloween they start placing them here and there to see how they look. There's a lot to be said for the adaptability of this approach. It's rare for plans to go awry when there's no plan to begin with. It's also a much less stressful way to haunt. There's less of a sense of being behind schedule. One just makes props and such up until showtime and displays whatever's finished. As you can imagine, this approach is much more suited to the unthemed Haunts 57 type of display, since no prop is dependent on some other prop or scenic element being in play. The themed haunt, however, generally requires a bit more planning. Certain elements will be deemed crucial to the story, and the haunter probably has a certain progression in mind for the guests to experience all the sights and sounds. And a change in plans in one area might necessitate change somewhere else. At this point, it helps to have some fudge factor built into the overall design plan. Years ago, as an elective in college, I took an intro business class. They discussed the importance of having a business plan. By having a plan, goals can be set according to a timeline, and progress can be more effectively monitored along the way. The plan isn't necessarily set in stone. The ability to adapt and change the plan as needed is important. Sometimes, progress swims along like a racing dolphin, and other times it sinks like a stone. And it can be hard to predict in advance how things are going to go. Business schools usually teach a 3-track business plan, and this plan is perfect for the haunter as well. Track A is the Haunted Holy Grail, that rare, expectation-exceeding haunt that looks like it'll be finished ahead of time and under budget, allowing for further embellishment and tricking out in time for Halloween. Track B, the haunt you envision in your mind, and the one that you're certain that you'll be able to build with the time and resources available to you, is your Track B. And of course, there's always Track C, the one that probably at least half of us end up doing, the somewhat stripped down, not quite what I wanted but it'll do version. The rule is, shoot for B, hope for A, and make sure you're prepared for C. The Track C version of your haunt doesn't have to be shoddy or incomplete looking. It's just the minimalist version of your desired haunt. By actually designing this version ahead of time, you can keep in mind which props or other elements you absolutely must finish, and can then keep your building prioritized. I know many haunters like to start many projects and have them all going at once, but the Track C elements need to be finished before other involved projects are undertaken. Once these minimum haunty requirements are met, then by all means it's gung-ho to finish off your Track B projects. By actually building these completed versions in your head, and on paper of course, you have a clear visualization of what you're working toward. Imagine in full what that simplified Track C will look like in its entirety, and you'll make more efficient progress toward getting it done in a timely fashion. And you'll be on that much more solid ground in the push to get your originally planned haunt, the Track B one, completed. Ask any self-made successful person, be they an independent businessman, golfer, architect, or competition archer, and they will tell you that one of the most important cornerstones to success is visualization. You see what you have to work with, and you can clearly visualize the final successful result. The rest is just filling in the steps between them. And, just in case the muses and forces that be are smiling upon you, make sure you have a picture in mind of your Track A dream haunt. Have a few extra ideas on the back burner, preferably smaller, quicker projects that could really take the haunt over the top. Then, if you get your Track B requirements finished a week or few days ahead of time, start kicking out the extras. Perhaps a few dozen drippy LED flicker candles to line the walkway, or an extra flying crank ghost or two, or a small forest of groundbreaking skeletal arms to make your cemetery so daunting even Bruce Campbell would be afraid to walk through. It's good to think big, but there's a big difference between thinking big and accomplishing big. The only thing separating the two is organization. Aiming for the top and going all out without focusing on finishing the intermediate goals is likely to yield the same result as when Wile E. Coyote charges up a hill and off the edge of the cliff. Suddenly, you notice you're not moving forward anymore. You look down and see there's nothing under your feet. If all this planning and pre-visualization sound like drudge work to you, and you prefer the freedom of the unplanned, free-fall, make-as-much-as-I-can-before-time-runs-out approach, go for it. The Haunts 57 is still the most popular type of haunt, and visitors and passers-by will still applaud you for it. But for those who want the challenge and satisfaction of a completed, coordinated, themed haunted attraction, remember, professional results require a professional approach. That means planning. By having a simplified, finished haunt plan on hand as a fallback ensures that you'll have just such a haunt, even if it's a little smaller and simpler than the one you wanted. And once again, the visitors and passers-by will applaud you for it. And that's something to keep in mind. If you don't accomplish as much as you'd like to this season, don't sweat it. They won't know. As a haunter, you'll already have a house and a lawn that's more made up than most of the neighborhood, even if you only go halfway. So happy haunting as the push for Halloween roars to life. Don't panic. Keep your eyes on the prize. Stay focused. And keep the ghost light burning.